Okay.
Awesome. You want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hello, I'm Wolf Purnananda, and it's an honor to be with you as ever receiving this and hearing this information around how we can work with these medicines to shift our consciousness, allow us to come more deeper into our heart, our centered being, that divine essence of who we are, that that true essence, and allow us to navigate life from that space, and be open with ourselves and be authentic to who we are. And just live more of a purified life of just being centered and navigating from our internal wisdom. Not so much of the wisdom we collect in the cognitive mind, but more like that infinite wisdom that resides within our soul, within our heart. And these are medicines that help support that process. If you feel called to it, and they can fast track your process of evolution, elevating your frequency or your the information you can access about your own being, from your sacred practices. Having some kind of sacred practice where you honor yourself each day, is a vital part of this work with these medicines.
Yeah.
And so having something you do to honor yourself, preferably if you do it mentally, emotionally, and energetically and physically, something you do each day to honor who you are, and realizing that each one of us has a very unique frequency, and you might call it your soul, and each one of us has a very unique gift or talents we bring to this world by being who we are. We're not actually here to figure anything out. We're here to deliver something unique that comes through us into the world. And it's how we come into service to the planet, not just Mother Earth, but the realm of like how we be in service by just being in our true essence of our being. You know,
Mm.
these medicines kind of can help provide clarity for that, or put you into alignment with that, um, and also provide any clarity you need to know about your life. A lot of times people feel they've made like choices in their life that didn't benefit them, and they're carrying that energy around with them. And through this work with the medicines, they can tap more into their own inner self and realize that maybe that decision they made is one of the best choice they could have made in their life at that moment. And so
Mm.
that regret or that limiting self-worth that they may be carrying doesn't isn't there anymore, you know. And so where
Mhm.
they want to use medicines to connect more to their heart space, not just being more loving, but that intelligence that comes from the heart. There's more neurons in the heart than the brain, so there's information you can access through this energy center within your being, and these medicines help you come more in alignment, with that, and also reset the entire system. We're more than just a physical being. We have an emotional body, mental body, energetic body, physical body. And sometimes those other parts of our being have limitations. Sometimes you have an trapped emotional body, or limited beliefs in your mental body, um, or a misalignment in the physical body. All these medicines can help reset that back to its natural state, you know,
Mm. Yes.
based on your intention and how you want to work with them, and
Mhm.
it's not one all be all for everyone. It's really about your intention. And these are all conscious based medicines. I mean, they come from a living organism, whether it be a frog or a root or a plant or a vine, they come from a living organism. And based on the intentions you set, that's how the medicine is going to work with you, you know. So it's really tailored to each person's experience. And it
Mm.
happens to have its ability to meet you where you are today, and like where you are tomorrow with somewhere different. And so that's the beauty of working with these conscious-based medicines, that they really are a technology. You know, they're an incredible technology that Mother Earth is giving us to support us, and isn't about being dependent upon the medicines. As you know, like Iboga is something you might do like once in a lifetime or once in a decade. Ayahuasca is something that might be done a little more um, frequently, maybe once a year, or more if you feel called to it. Kambo is more of a treatment-based medicine. It's something that you can do as a treatment, whether you want to work on a medical ailment, or you just want to use it for just preventative. I work with Kambo monthly myself, just for preventative measures, just to keep my blood cleansed, my organs balanced, and it's really been really beautiful. And I've even had a naturopath look at my blood under a microscope with me in the office, and he says my blood is off the charts, meaning the health of my blood, like how the white cells are working, how the bacteria is being eaten or being disputed, um, you know, being dis, um, mantilated or, recalibrated. And I connect
Hmm.
that all to Kambo. So it's an honor to share these with you and talk about like the power of them.
Thank you. Can you explain kind of a little more, maybe for somebody who doesn't know what Kambo is? Just kind of like a general what it is.
Yeah, so Kambo comes from the green monkey tree frog, and it's a secretion. It's not a poison, it's not a venom. It's a secretion, and the frogs are not harmed to gather the medicine. And it's scraped off the back of the frog with like a bamboo stick, and it's collected. It's very sinewy, like rubber cement. And how it's applied is first of all, Kambo is made of 11 bioactive peptides and 3 of them are neurological. And so Campbell's molecule structure looks like your saliva. And so when it comes in the body welcomes it very quickly. It sees something already part of the system, doesn't see it as a foreign substance, and has ability to go right into the center of the cells and pull all the bad bacteria, all the PTSD, the trauma, the trapped emotions, like whatever the cells are holding. Campbell pulls it out, puts good bacteria back in the cell, and then it reseals the cell. But it goes the
Hmm.
entire body in 40 minutes. So it was a rapid detox. Just from a place of testimony, we've seen Campbell overcome AIDS, HIV, STDs, autoimmune diseases, stage 4 cancer, Lyme disease, Alzheimer's, dementia so far. It's not a medical claim, it's just what I witnessed as a practitioner. I'm certified licensed master practitioner with Kambo, sponsored by Kambo International. So I do teachings and trainings and podcast talks and TV interviews, and anytime I'm out talking about Kambo, I'm out there talking about this medicine and what we've seen with how,
Hmm.
how it works, you know.
Kind of, I think when I took the class, the self-administration class, what they talked about, which resonated really with me and helped me understand, was how important the peptides are for our system, and that you can go and buy peptides in a can and put it in your milkshakes, but it doesn't, our bodies don't necessarily recognize it. Sometimes when we bring stuff in that's made in a laboratory, our bodies are like, we don't know about that, and it kind of sends it on the way. But when it comes from a frog, our bodies instantly open up, the cells open up and they go, oh, we recognize this, and it accepts in the peptides, and that's why we're able to take that in so much faster.
Right. Yeah, recognize something that's already part of the system. It thinks it's already part of the body. And so your cells
Mhm.
are very open to it. Normally, when you do a pharmaceutical, they have to put something in the pharmaceutical to trick the cell to open to it. And
Mhm.
that's not with Kambo. And got to remember, a peptide is a molecule between amino acid and a protein, which is what our bodies are made of. And so
Mhm.
it's very accepted very quickly, and it goes to the body very quickly because it sees something's already part of the system. And so the benefit, the amount of benefits you receive over the 40 minutes of process is completely outweighed, you know, for the process.
Yeah.
It's powerful, it's really powerful. And, I've seen limes clear in 2 sessions, seen limes clear in 5 sessions. I've seen like SCDs clear in 4 sessions. So it is a treatment-based medicine, you know,
Mhm.
and so yeah.
That's amazing. Um, so you kind of went over like who should do it. Should, in your opinion, do you think everybody should do it before Iboga and ayahuasca ceremonies? And
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. So first of all, if you go to say with a tribe in the Amazon, most of the tribes we know that serve ayahuasca serve Kambo, and it's considered their aspirin. It's also a cleansing process. They believe in ayahuasca that you're going to go to the God dimension, and so they feel you want to be cleansed for that, like clear. Do you know what I mean? If you were
Hmm.
to go to Africa to say with a tribe for Iboga, a Bwiti tribe, they're going to have you drink a tea that does the very same concept of Kambo, just different application to cleanse your system. So,
Hmm.
Iboga and ayahuasca are considered probably the most master plants on the planet. And one carries very divine feminine essence, one carries more of a divine masculine essence. One is considered the grandmother, one considered the grandfather. And, even though they grow in separate countries, got to remember at one point in time, like Africa and South America are one continent. They line up,
Hmm.
and they grow very much in the same environment between the two. And so there's a cleansing process you want to do before you do these medicines. So we use
Hmm.
chemical for that. And when I felt called to serve Iboga, I was like, I don't know anybody who serves Kambo, ayahuasca, and Iboga. And so I began to look it up online. I found this book, and it says Kambo, ayahuasca, Iboga, this synergy. And so there's a relationship between these medicines of how they relate to each other.
I have it somewhere. I bought it because you told me told me
Yeah.
about it. It is an amazing book.
And so there's a relationship with these medicines and how they work together. And there's a synergy and it's hard to explain once you experience it. I have certain people who will only work with ayahuasca now once they do Kambo.
Hmm.
And and so Iboga, I know many practitioners serve Iboga and they serve Kambo first. I'm not going to have you drink the tea from Africa. I'm just going to have you do Kambo. And either way, it's going to cleanse the system. And Kambo's a complete reset. If I had to give Kambo one word, it'd be reset. And it's a reset to the system energetically, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Now, it's not
Hmm.
looking for any of those benefits or ailments we talked about. It's looking for the imbalance. And
Hmm.
if that imbalance is in the system energetically, mentally, emotionally, physically, is causing a dis-ease or disease in the system, then it's going to push it out. But it's looking for
Hmm.
the balance. So many people who work with Kambo who didn't come in with these certain intentions, but it worked on that. People who, process cysts on their ovaries from the Kambo. People who had a complete rebalance to the PCOS of their ovaries through Kambo. That wasn't even their intention.
Hmm.
And so it's looking for the imbalance, you know. And so it helps realign your system. So when you step into the work with these master plants or master medicines like ayahuasca and iboga, you're coming in more centered, more dialed in, if you want to call it that.
Okay. Um, can you talk about how the Cambo's administered for people that have never done that? And then can you talk about the different types or the ways to serve Cambo? So like the reset like we did recently, and then the different sites or anyways, the dry Cambo, the if you can talk about those and then
Yeah. So every tribe that we know of in the Amazon serves Kambo, and they all serve it differently based on their intention, or their intention or their environment. Some tribes have a 3-day walk to water, and so to walk for 3 days and then come back and spit water out doesn't make any sense to them. So they do it dry. But the point is to reverse back. Like, I want to bring you back to the legend of Kambo, and how Kambo was found was through ayahuasca. And there was a page. Page's Portuguese for medicine man. Medicine woman, medicine man, either way, it's Page, and his name was Page Campu. And his tribe had gotten deathly sick to the point of extinction. And he tried all his medicines, all his modalities saved the tribe, nothing was working. And so he did a journey with ayahuasca. This is back when only the medicine men or women worked with ayahuasca, not the whole tribe. And
Mhm.
he did a journey, and his concept of understanding he was going to go to God and ask him, how do I save my tribe? And so while he was in the journey of ayahuasca, the medicine guided him to walk out to the rainforest to this green monkey tree frog. And he was shown how to take the medicine out of the frog without harming it. And he was given a vision of how to burn the skin of his tribe members and put it on the burn. So he ended
Mhm.
up doing that. He ended up saving the entire tribe. And so it said when he took his last breath as a human, his spirit went to the frog. That's why medicine's called Kambo, because his name was Kampu, actually named after him.
Mm.
So that's the legend of the medicine. And what's even more powerful than that is every tribe that we know of has the exact same legend, even though some tribes have never been spoken. So it's
Mhm.
the intelligence of the medicine that shared that information with the people. And anyways, so you have to burn the skin. Now you take this incense stick and you flick your skin the tenth of a second. It's not a brand or a sear. You're just trying to get the first layer of skin off. It's like the size of like
Mhm.
a marker dot on your skin. And then we apply the medicine on top of that, the size of like a BB or lentil. It's very sinewy. You need to grab our cement and we just put a little ball of it on top of the burn, and that's how it gets into the body. Um, so there's that. The traditional way of doing Kambo is you drink a liter and a half of water before the medicine, and then a liter in the medicine. The water is going to collect all the toxins, and then you're going to purge that out. As I mentioned, some tribes have a 3-day walk to water, and so it's other different ways of serving Kambo. Being a master practitioner, I'm trained in all of them, and we're now able to kind of translate into our society based on our different ailments, based on our prescriptions, based on things we have in our society that they don't have, and looked at all the different ways Kambo is served. So yeah, some tribes do it dry. They don't drink water. And so it's a different experience. Instead of feeling like the flushing of water cleansing the system, you feel more like the medicine going through and burning things out. The element of the medicine is once you drink the waters, the element of medicine is fire. And so once you drink the water with it, it turns more element of water. And so it begins to wash things out or flush things out. We don't drink any water, it begins to go through and begin to find the balance and burn it out. So you stay more of an elevated experience as far as being hot or heated. and
Hmm.
begin to feel the medicine burn things out compared to flushing them out.
Hmm.
What we did is what we call layer treatment, and we use that for people who have more like extreme medical ailments, elderly, younger folk, or people who want to reset their purge point. I mean, the fact they're getting to a high place of receiving medicine that they want to bring that amount down. We do
Hmm.
what they call layer treatment, which is much more gentler, where we just put one point on every couple minutes. They drink one glass of water in between each point, and kind of walking them up some stairways until they purge. Um, so a different application in the process. And yeah.
Okay. Um, Personally, with my experience recently, I really feel like anybody with any kind of trauma, PTSD, brain damage, whatever, I feel like they should go for Iboga first. I mean, that's my personal opinion. Do you have an opinion one way or another about that?
Um, I mean, when I talk to people or have connect calls with people, like we usually talk about the different offerings and medicines, and we kind of feel into what feels called to them. But to give you a scope on what Iboga can do, I mean, as you kind of mentioned earlier on the call, like there's so many benefits you've received from the medicine to even have the intention of coming in with that, like hip pain, different things like that. But Iboga is more of a conscious-based medicine. Like it's scientifically proven where we program the entire limbic brain in 36 hours. I had multiple clients. In fact, I have a call with one later on tonight who sat with Iboga before that deal with a traumatic brain injury from work being on a construction site, and it helped him tremendously. And so, why I feel it helps people with anything going on a cognitive level is that it scientifically is proven to reprogram the entire limbic brain in 36 hours. It also resets all the opioid receptors. And so people who usually have drug addictions will come work with Iboga because it helps them not have the addiction anymore. But also clears out your consciousness. So if people may understand or might not, either way, that we have a consciousness to us, and it's kind of like our software program. And there's
Hmm.
any experience we had in our life, blissful or traumatic, our consciousness grabs onto that and holds onto it and affects the way we show up in life post those moments. And so what Iboga's ability to do is clear out your consciousness, kind of like your catch on your computer. If there's any like things that don't serve anymore, it's going to clear it out. So if you were
Hmm.
12 years old walking down the street and you looked over the toy store and you saw two kids playing ball and that meant something to you at the moment, and your consciousness like grabbed onto that, if that doesn't serve you anymore, you're going to watch that be deleted. Um,
Hmm.
difference with Iboga is that you're much more watching the experience than compared to like ayahuasca or mushrooms where you're in the experience.
Hmm.
And so again, scientifically, within 36 hours of the experience, your program is your limbic brain, and it's going to clear your consciousness that's limiting you from how you show up in the world. You know,
Yeah.
so that's where it can benefit from anybody, especially with any kind of brain injury or imbalance. We're going with that.
Hmm.
Ayahuasca is
I
more of
read.
a heart medicine. It works on your heart, like healing your
Mm.
heart or allowing you to connect more to your heart, not just being more loving, but meaning the fact that like if there's any trauma with, child abuse or anything in your childhood or a fight with your brother or arguing with your best friend or a breakup, like whatever it was, it helps like heal your heart from that. Also helps you connect to your divine essence of your being. We can talk about that in a minute, but so there's different how these medicines play with you.
Yeah, I was going to say I had read recently about our nervous system. It attaches, it attracts, or it attaches more to what's familiar than what's healthy for us. So it's
Mhm.
kind of in line of what you were saying of like we keep choosing the familiar, or if we had something traumatic that happened when we were a child and we're like, okay, we got to avoid that, like we keep doing that because it's become a pattern at this point and it's familiar. And it's like that's what Iboga did, was just help. I said that earlier, I feel like I left 50 pounds of emotional baggage behind when I stepped out of that journey. I had less pain all over. It was just an incredible experience, and so much I experienced that was very unexpected.
Mhm.
Definitely, my heart is light and I feel incredible. And it's been 2 weeks at this point, and it is amazing. And it is the longest journey that you can go on in medicine of
Mhm.
all the plant medicines, correct? You said 36 hours.
Yeah, it's a 36-hour experience. It's not a 36-hour journey. But the point is
Hmm.
like, from the
Okay,
time you
yeah.
take the medicine to the time that you're able to like maybe get up and go for a walk outside is 36 hours. You know, technically the format of the medicine is like the first 12 to 14 hours is the journey part. The next 12 to 14 hours are more like emotional processing part. Not that you're emotional, you're just processing emotions maybe you haven't wanted to feel in the past, and you're able to be really centered in how they come up and experience it and kind of release it.
Hmm.
The last 12 to 14 hours is more like medicine kind of comes back around and begins to help you integrate the process, kind of explain some things to you. That's also time maybe you want to like get on your phone, tell your friends you're okay, or maybe you want some tea or some food, or you might want some like social engagement around like talking about your process. Um, and so, but yeah, but that's, it's not 36-hour journey, but a 36-hour experience, you know.
It's not, yeah, it's scary going in because it is unfamiliar, but ultimately you have the opening ceremony, you read your questions, and you ingest the medicine, and then you lay down and put an eye mask on and complain about how loud your pillow is. Your hearing is amplified, your vision is amplified, so that's why you wear the eye mask, and
Mhm.
you're just kind of like in that spot that you lay in. And you were there for support, which was incredible, and an amazing DJ.
Funny.
Yeah, the Iboga music was interesting to listen to, but I definitely liked the softer, more sound bowl sounds that was more soothing to my soul as I was experiencing. It was almost like a life review. I was seeing all these images and they're all being swiped to the left, like being deleted, delete thousands and thousands of images both nights.
Mhm.
I experienced that. And it's my experience was the first night it was all in the left eye, and the second night it was all in the right eye.
Mm.
And it was in the first it was like relationships or something. And then the second night was like gory images that I had just still held on to from, I don't know, watching a lot of scary movies as a child, I guess. um and so, and then and I just, again, during the ceremony, you had said there's nothing to fix and there's nothing to heal. And that resonated so deeply with me. And I love that you said that.
Mm. Yeah.
I think so many of us feel broken, and like if we can just get to this point, then we'll be okay, then we'll be fixed and we'll be right. And it's not a matter of being fixed or unbroken anymore. It's a matter of releasing what's no longer ours, what no longer
Mhm.
serves us.
Yeah. Yeah, your true divine essence, you might call it your soul, your spirit, your frequency, whatever reference you want to have for it. Like, there's nothing you can ever say or do that takes away from how whole and complete the true essence of who you are really is.
Hmm.
And so there's nothing to fix. Like, there's
Hmm.
nothing broken, but there's things that maybe like we need to clear because it's kind of overlaying it and it's limiting
Hmm.
it from a true expression. And so we release, trapped emotion in our emotional body, releases in our mental body, like anything that's limiting the true expression of your true essence, your divine self, your soul's purpose, like whatever reference you want to have for it. Like, so we're just uncovering that by clearing these things out, allowing more space for the true essence to be expressed and to shine through, if you want to call it that,
Hmm.
um, and to be experienced in life.
Mm. Um, the so you also you suggest microdosing before and after, correct? Is
Iboga.
that this Iboga? Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
And is there amount of days before and
7 days
after?
is good.
7 days?
Three
Okay.
to 7 days. Yeah.
Okay. I think I only did 5. I can't remember. I felt like I was good for the time. Yeah, that's and there's no food prepping for, I mean, there's no like dietary restrictions for Iboga.
Not like ayahuasca. I mean, there
Yeah.
are recommendations for ayahuasca. It's more requirements.
Yes.
There is a little bit of recommendations for Kambo, and since you're doing Kambo the day of Iboga or the day before, like you want to prepare your body for that, so you kind of just roll right into it. But no,
Hmm.
there's no specific like.
Oh,
Um,
what would the diet for Kambo be?
you just want to like eat more of a. of a plain, whole
Hmm.
foods. Doesn't have to be vegan or vegetarian. You want to limit like things that are hard to process, like cheese
Pork.
and red meat, pork, those kind of
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
Chicken, fish, and eggs are still good. You don't want to lose a lot of salt or spices. You want to limit that.
And like fermented foods, I feel. Is
Yeah, a
that
little bit. Yeah,
okay? Limiting on
into
that.
those. Also want
Okay.
to limit your fat intake around like cooking oils. Like having an
Mm,
avocado is fine, but more like cooking oils, you want to bring and decrease that as well.
okay.
But
And
again,
then
these are all like requirements for Kambo, but I mean requirements for ayahuasca, but they're more recommend like very similar recommendations for Kambo, but it's more recommended compared to required.
what would a required for ayahuasca be?
Very much the same, just you just required not to do that. Very recommended.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like dairy and pork and spicy
Mhm.
foods. And I feel like I had one experience where they said citrus as well. So like
Mm.
lemons, and is that something that you've heard?
No,
Okay.
it can be. I mean,
I
there's lots of different people with different.
yeah.
Some are very strict, some are very light.
Um, do you suggest restricting other plant medicines before each of the different ceremonies?
It depends on what you're talking about. I
Like
mean,
weed or MDMA or
yeah, definitely like cannabis with ayahuasca. You know, there's no judgment around cannabis, but the point is like cannabis and ayahuasca are both master plants and they're both feminine. And so they
hmm
don't like being in the same body at the same time, you know.
hmm
It's like having two ex-lovers in the same room. It's kind of uncomfortable. Um, so they just don't like to share,
Okay.
so limiting, you definitely want to limit your cannabis intake before Kambo as well
hmm
for that. Um, but it's not about not having a relationship with these medicines, it's just about like limiting it around the use of these other medicines. Isn't it? You have to
Okay.
smoke cannabis for your life. It's just like, limit it around the use, before use of these medicines. But different like mushrooms, they contraindicate with anything. You can do mushrooms a day before, any of these medicines, and there's no contraindication between it all.
Mhm.
It depends
And
upon.
you have access to some mushroom ayahuasca chocolates.
Yeah, yeah,
That's so exciting. Those are amazing.
yeah.
That's such a beautiful journey. Um, I don't
I mean,
know if you
the
want to.
female tribe that's put these things together, been working on it for 10 years, and so they really found the right way to do it. I mean, I've had alchemists that have made ayahuasca chocolates, and they weren't at all like this, and
Mhm.
so. Ayahuasca is normally a tea that's made of two main ingredients. One's the ayahuasca plant, there's the chacuna leaf, and it takes hundreds of leaves to make 1 gallon of ayahuasca. So there's a lot of debris in the tea. There's a lot of like substance that's been boiled down. And it's not fermented intentionally, but it is fermented in like just the time of it being brewed to bottled and getting to you. And so not everybody's stomach can digest that. Some people drink it and it comes right back up because
Yeah.
they can't hold it in because it does take a strong stomach to hold it. And so the beautiful thing about the chocolates is they're able to get right in without any adherence around digestion.
Mhm.
And you're receiving a lot more potent, like concentrated ayahuasca, so you're getting less volume but more potency. And so it's easier to digest, especially processing in a food substance. And so it's going to be a longer experience because it's going through as food compared to liquid. Um,
Mhm.
just really, I mean, these women that created this chocolate with ayahuasca, it's just, you've tried it.
The
It's
mushroom, yeah, mushrooms and chocolate and ayahuasca is
I've never had
incredible.
anything like it. I mean, I've sat with ayahuasca for 12 years and like, there's nothing like these chocolates. I'm not saying that ayahuasca can't be as powerful as that because I've had powerful experiences. As powerful as chocolate, it's just different.
Hmm.
And for people that are maybe being open to seeing this medicine, I highly recommend the chocolates first before they
Hmm.
take the tea, so they can be able to walk into it without having to go through the nauseousness or like the body discomfort before they
Hmm.
can really tap into the beautiful benefits of the medicine.
I did my entire journey in the bathtub. It was so incredible. Just the music and the vibration, and just it was such an incredible experience. It was very beautiful. Do you want to talk a little bit about ayahuasca?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the difference for people who don't know the difference between the two medicines, comes from a vine. And if you ask the tribes, like, how did you know to take this vine that grows way over here and mix it with this leaf that goes way over here? Because you need two ingredients, ayahuasca vine, chikuna leaf. And the tribes will tell you, well, can't you hear it? And you say, well, hear what? And they say, well, they sing to each other. So that's the connection to Mother Earth we're talking about. And, Iboga comes from a root. So ayahuasca comes from a vine. So ayahuasca is very much an up and out experience, very expansive, very up experience in the realm of like going to these higher dimensional realms of consciousness. Iboga is a root, so going down the depth of yourself. So completely different direction in the two. When I say down, I don't mean dark. I'm just saying you're going down in the depth of yourself. And
Hmm.
ayahuasca is very much an expansive up experience. And gotta remember, the active ingredient in ayahuasca is DMT. And DMT is considered the spiritual molecule or God molecule. All living organisms have it in it, including you and I. When you go into a deep REM sleep, you have a small screenshot of DMT, which allows you to go into a dream state. When you take your last breath as a human, you have a large screenshot of DMT, which allows your soul to leave your body. And so it's naturally in our system already. And so when you combine these two plants together, and you drink the tea or receive the chocolate, either way, you're able to go into what you might call the God consciousness. You go into these higher dimensional realms of understanding that you might consider like people accessing like a near-death experience, but without the death part or without the trauma part. You can access any information you want to access. If you want to know how the planets were made, it's available. If you want to know why your lover's your lover, your kids are your kids, your parents, what your soul's purpose is, all of that information is accessible in these higher realms of consciousness.
Hmm.
And ayahuasca is considered what the grandmother or the mother, and because there's a very divine feminine essence that comes to you and helps you guide into these different spaces of yourself to access more information of who you are. So you're not going anywhere outside of yourself. You're just going to the highest, purest version of who you are and getting some information. And she acts as the bridge to those connections to bring that information back into yourself and operate in life. And so one 8-hour ceremony of ayahuasca is considered 10 years of therapy. The amount of information you can process or release or reconfigure or reprogram into yourself, um, that's what ayahuasca can do. And that's why the tribes believe they're connecting to God, because you're going to the God intelligence. It's not some man up in a cloud that's making decisions on your life. It's a frequency, it's an energy. And you go to this frequency, and anything, like I said, is accessible about your life. And um, that's profound, in the experience. But they have different intentions, and they're completely different experiences,
Hmm.
between the two. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. There's so much to process. And not to just leap into something completely different, but do you mind talking a little bit about mushrooms and kind of your knowledge of like what that can do for people and how that can help and like microdosing versus macrodosing and the environments you should be in and
Yeah. Yeah, so mushrooms are considered what they call the wisdom keepers of the planet. If you want to stay with the reference as far as grandfather Iboga and grandmother ayahuasca, mushrooms are considered the grandchildren. Um, they're
ah.
very playful, in that aspect. Yes, mushrooms can be done in a recreational setting. I'm letting you know that ayahuasca and Iboga cannot be done in a recreational setting. Like you need somebody who's a space holder for you. You're opening up many different levels of who you are and understanding. And so how somebody holding a container for you, whether you understand energy or not, there's an energetic container that overlaps us in the medicine, and somebody can hold that container for you so you feel more safe and supported to surrender into the process is needed. Mushrooms, it's nice to have somebody who's a sitter for you for sure when you go into a deeper experience or when you do like more higher volume amount of mushrooms, but you can also go in the woods and do it yourself. Um, but they're very playful in the realm. And the one thing about mushrooms is they're kind of like, you set intention with ayahuasca, and grandma ayahuasca is going to guide you to that understanding. You ask questions with Iboga, and they're going to show you the answer to those questions so you have more understanding about your life. Mushrooms are kind of like they're going to do what they're going to do. And you can set
Mhm.
intentions, and they might serve those intentions part of the time. every time I just might take you on a journey, and from the healing aspect of mushrooms, if you recognize that mushrooms look like the mycelium network, and they're all connected. It's really all one mushroom, and they look like neurons in the brain. And so it helps recalibrate the neurons in the brain. It's also very good for reconstructing like brain injury or brain damage or just the way thought processes. Or maybe you have, if you experience trauma in your life, your brain will configure neurons around that trauma. So you operate from that space, and mushrooms have the ability to come reconfigure that. People are also looking to get off like pharmaceuticals or antidepressants. Microdosing
Mm.
mushrooms is also a very good substance to use to
And alcohol.
or alcohol to like get them to wean off of those and get your
Hmm.
mind functioning again back to its natural normal state, um,
Hmm.
and really balance it out. Macro dosing is I would definitely recommend more with a sitter, somebody who can support you on that. There's macro dosing of like 3 grams or hero's dose of 5 gram. It's also people who do 10, 20, 30, 40 grams. Mushrooms are not, you can never overdose on them unless you take your body weight in mushrooms. And so you can do as much as you like. Um, you just have to like be able to like hold space for yourself if you try to do it on your own.
Hmm.
Do really good with holding space for yourself and remind you that you're on mushrooms, because mushrooms might make you feel like you're in a certain reality
Hmm.
that might be true to the mushrooms, but might not be true to your life. And so you have to like remind yourself. Like when I say with mushrooms on my own, like I met a note on the door, do not go outside.
Unless you're in the
There's times
forest.
the mushrooms would tell me, but they're like, hey, go outside. And like I've gone outside before and I've been like, felt so much incredible energy at like 3 in the morning. I'm like, ah, and like you
And your
can't do that
neighbors are
in
like,
the
wait a
neighborhood,
minute.
And so not that I'm acting out of my mind or anything, but I'm just like really feeling the energy of the planet, feeling my full potency of my container of who I am. And our soul is expansive as the ocean. And when we try to fit our soul into this body, it's like putting a drop of the ocean into a body. So you have to condense that whole ocean into one drop of water. And
Hmm.
so if anyone had the true experience to actually feel the true power of themselves, the true frequency or energy of who they are, it would be such a blissful moment, and that it would be like being outside in the woods, because you just feel like you're so empowered and you feel centered in yourself and realizing how unique you are and what a work of art you are, and you're able to
Hmm.
really step into that beauty and that power of yourself, um, with all these medicines. But mushrooms sometimes can take you there, and like it's important for you to have a sitter that can kind of keep you like focused on
Grounded.
track, um I mean, I've been in mushrooms before, and it's taken me other dimensional settings, there's theories around there's alternate universes, and it's taken me into those alternate universes, um you know and I've had to like remind myself like, okay, I'm in this alternate universe, but it's not my universe because I took mushrooms, because you can almost feel like, oh, I'm now here. I mean, I'm now in this universe, and this is where I'm gonna be the rest of my life, you know and
Hmm.
so unless you have a reminder to remind you like, oh yes, I took 5 grams of mushrooms, um,
Hmm.
to like help you come back to that space. Um, they're also very directive. The certain directive you give the mushrooms, they're going to listen to that and support your process. And
I
it
think it's
also,
important to set your intentions
yeah.
every time you take mushrooms.
Yeah. And remember too, like there's always this theory that you hallucinate. You're not hallucinating anything. You're just the veil is removed. And so you're able to see the frequency of the plants. You're able to see the frequency of nature. And so you're going to see these energetic patterns around these living organisms. And that's real. You're actually seeing what's real. You're not hallucinating. It's just your limited mind when you're not on medicine doesn't allow you to see those things unless you really do some really deep inner work around it. And so it
Hmm.
takes away the veil for you to see, the true essence of everything. Everything is energy and frequency.
Hmm.
Um, I remember when my first times with mushrooms, I was on a hike with my buddy, and like I could see the different how each species of plant had its own frequency. And we were
Oh,
out in
wow.
the mountains, and I couldn't see the actual plant. I couldn't see the biological part of the plant, but I could tell which plants were the same because they had the same like aura, the same frequency, or the same
Hmm.
energetic makeup. you know. Um, and that's how I knew right away that I wasn't hallucinating. I was actually seeing beyond the veil, the
Hmm.
true essence of who we are. And everything has energy to it, no matter if you think it's alive or not. It does, you know. And so you're able to come out of these experiences with more gratitude for life. Your life is always happening for
Yes.
you, never to you, never against you. No matter how traumatic moments are sometimes or how blissful they are. And the more you can stay centered to moments instead of having a reaction to experiences, you can take a step back. My first line for everything is like, interesting. Let's see what comes from this. Is there something here that's happening, whether it be, meeting a brand new friend at the co-op or having um, losing your keys. Like there's a reason behind it. And so the more you can stay centered, be like, interesting, I wonder what this is happening for. And if you stay in that neutral position, you'll find out later on in the day why you didn't have your keys. Maybe because you're supposed to go to the grocery store half an hour later than you planned to go and you need to be there. So the universe like lost your keys for you. Or whatever it is. And but when you can these medicines help you come more into that centered space of like being able to see more like macro version of life and how everything is working for your greater good, no matter how it appears, you know.
Hmm.
Um, it allows you to have more appreciation, more gratitude for life, and no one's saying that life is easy, but what the thing is that what I believe is that the more disconnected you are from your heart space, meaning your intuition, that inner guidance that comes through the heart space, the more challenges we face because we're approaching it differently. And compared to like having the navigation and that internal wisdom to how to navigate either a challenging moment or a blissful moment, and you can turn in with the inner wisdom around how to navigate this, you're not so affected by it. You're not having such a reaction from it. And you're able to guide, and maybe a day later, a week later, a year later, 2 days, like 2 decades later, you're able to turn around and see how beneficial that moment was, even though it was really challenging to go through. You know,
Hmm.
and spirit says hi. Back.
Hi, Spirit.
You like that talk? You like that?
Yeah, I started off my journey in 2021, and I started off with microdosing mushrooms, and that really just opened up my whole world. I don't think I've honestly done a hero's dose. I've definitely done the 3 grams. I've done larger doses, definitely. And yeah, like it helped me. And I, I don't believe I was ever an alcoholic. I had PTSD and I drank to help with my anxiety. And I didn't go into mushrooms thinking I was going to quit drinking, but that is what happened. And I am so grateful for that because I had 2 to 3 glasses of wine every day for 10 years because I didn't know how to deal with my anxiety. And what I learned in the medicine was it was perpetuating my anxiety. So as I learned to release the wine and the kombucha beers and all the things that I was consuming to help with my anxiety, and I learned to breathe and I learned to meditate and I learned to be with myself, then that clutch fell away and that crutch fell away and I was able to just like be with me more. And so I'm definitely, you introduced me to our mushroom friend, shaman, Antone. He's incredible in Coos Bay now. And he's introduced me to different types of mushrooms. And so I've definitely learned the difference between kind of like a masculine and feminine mushroom. I definitely love a more feminine mushroom. It's more gentle for me. And I feel like specifically, there was one called a hillbilly, and I felt like I was walking with a saw blade cutting concrete behind me, and sparks were flying everywhere. And I just thought, why does this have to be so hard? And I heard it doesn't have to be. You can just stop. And it's amazing. In that medicine, I was able to do that. Oh, okay. I don't have to keep walking with these sparks flying. But that was definitely more of a masculine, and the more feminine, the tats, the true albino teachers, those are more gentle and playful and loving for me. So I like that journey so much more. So do you have any thoughts on like the different types of mushrooms or preferences or where people
Mm.
should start? You know,
No,
no.
I don't.
Okay. That's
Um,
okay.
but I would definitely start with microdosing. The way
Yes.
that I recommend is that either a 4-and-3 split or a 5-and-2 split. What that means is
So,
you take one every day for 4 days, and then you take 3 days off. It's kind of like coffee. You want
mhm,
to give your nervous system a rest. You shouldn't feel it when you take the microdose in the morning.
Hmm.
Maybe might put a little more smirk to your face, a little more grin to your smile. But other than that, like there shouldn't really be anything else felt. But it's a really beautiful way to start like reprogramming the neurons in your brain, you know. And I prefer the 4 and 3 split. Some people prefer the 5 and 2 split. It's like coffee.
Hmm.
You recommend if you drink it 5 days a week, just take 2 days off. Um, and so I highly recommend start there.
Yes, yes, I agree. I remember, yeah, I remember microdosing and being at the beach in Hawaii, and I was driving back to my house, and I was just like, oh, I was in Javi. Look at this beautiful town and all these beautiful people. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I was like, oh yeah, I'm microdosing. I
Yeah,
felt so, I just had this pure joy in me, and I just this optimism and love. And I was just like, wow, I wasn't feeling any kind of way, but I just, other than just joyous. And it's just, that's such a beautiful thing to have your eyes open to, your heart open to.
right. Right on.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all that information. Do you have anything else to add in to?
Um, kind of. I
Okay.
mean, I mean, the thing is, why the psychedelics are coming around right now is we're moving through a higher dimensional phase in the human species, and we're going through a dimensional shift. And it's the first one we're having in the beginning of our species. And we're shifting to this higher dimensional, heart-centered space. And what's going to be becoming more apparent for everybody is we're going to be people are starting to get a lot more intuitive, a lot more connection to this heart and feeling the inner wisdom that comes through you. And so these medicines are to kind of help fast track that process. And moving into a space where there's no teachers to reference, no books to read. We've never been here before, and so these medicines are coming in as like a stepping stone or as an aid to help us through this next phase of evolution as a species. And that's why they're really coming really full force. It's not always going to be a medicine. It just is right now.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Thank you. And do you want to let people know how they can find you if they would like to have an experience or have more questions for you?
for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I also run a program called the Diamond Heart Project, and it's a 16-week program about guiding people on how to tune into the intuition of their heart. And so I'm found a lot of places on there. The email you can get me on is either wolf at Kambo, KAMBOIS.life, LIF as in Frank E. Kambo is .life, or wolf at diamondheartproject.life. Those are two ways. And I have just started doing social media. So like I have social media like Instagram for Diamond Heart Project and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
good access points. But also know like you don't have to be committed to doing this work with the medicine to reach out. Like if you just want to get some more information, I do connect calls with everybody, with people every day around just getting them information. I send out things to read on the email and some podcasts that I've done so they can like get more information and we can have a connect call around answering their questions and like what does the ceremonies look like, and answer all the questions. Again, they don't have to be committed to have these calls, just having some interest or desire to have more information. And so feel free to always just reach out for more information. I enjoy live calls or one-on-one connects. And so I love doing this. And so just, reach out for more information.
Yes, I can say with 100% certainty that you are doing your life calling. And I've told you before that you're the first shaman I've ever worked with that I saw in my journey. That you were just, I saw your just incredible energy, holding space sacredly while I was, going through what I was going through. And I felt so safe and held. And you're just such an incredible ear to listen to, and you ask the right questions and you pause when you need to pause. And I just thoroughly appreciate you and all that you do. And thank you for taking time for me today to ask all these questions for people so I can share this with everyone
Of
because I want
course.
the world to know about this.
Of course. It's great to be with you. Thank you for the
Yeah. Thank you. And it was good to see Spirit. And Kevin says hi,
yeah, look.
or says Kevin says bye.
Bye,
He's been
Kevin.
napping.
Bye. See? Look.
He's like, I can't do that. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Blessings.
All right.
Love you.
Blessings.
Okay.
Love you too.
Okay. Bye.